Now, I'm still waiting for about 15 or 18 packages of stuff for the government off the internets. So I've decided I'm going to do a different project for this week. Now, I've got my big TIG. It works great, but it's not water cooled. So works fine for steel, but anytime I get onto aluminium, it quickly heats up and does poor welds. So I've bought a TIG lead that's water cooled. So I can't make one of these, so I had to buy that. But I've also been shopping and got lots of other parts. I've got some aluminium pins. I've got some extremely expensive brass fittings because they had to come from Miller, America. I've got hose clamps. I've got a power transformer. I've got a US style computer cord. So this will plug straight into the back of the Miller and supply 115 volts directly to my power supply. I've got two different types of filler caps. So I've got same as what I used on the fuel tank, or I've got a radiator style cap. So I'll decide which one I want to put on later, but for now I've got options. But every water cooler needs a pump, and being a car guy, first thing I thought of was Davies Craig. So I've hit them up. They told me this is the best option for what I'm doing because it doesn't flow a lot of water, but it has a lot of head pressure on it. Apparently they had this hooked up in their factory with a pipe going straight up about 15 feet and it was still pumping water out the top. So should be good when it's trying to pump through this tiny little hose. So a few other pieces I have. I have a sheet of aluminium to make a water tank out of. That's just 3mm. And I have a busted old computer. So don't need the DVD drive. I'm going to use the power supply for testing purposes and, well, a computer fan and a small radiator. So I am planning on making a larger radiator for it, but this will get me started. So you never know, it might work well enough to keep the water cool. So I've got a CAD template that I spent absolutely no time preparing. Basically this will hold 6 litres of water. I'm planning on putting the pump at the end, having an elbow come out of the water tank into the front of the pump. There will be a smaller pipe coming out the top of the pump and out the front of the machine to one of those really expensive brass fittings. Then there'll be another pipe going into the radiator. So there'll be a pipe coming back in from the front of the machine through the radiator and then back into the water tank. it there. I'll have the power pack mounted up on here as well, and that's the basic plan. So, let's get on with it. I've heard people online just referring to a death wheel. As far as I can tell, this is what they're talking about, which is a 1mm thick cut-off wheel. Now, I've never had any trouble with them myself. I've been using them for a very long time. We have these things. Now, it's kind of what we use for aluminium work in Australia. I've heard they're being designed in Australia and that's why they're so deadly and have killed people, so you got to take a bit of care with these. Now, I reckon that's what a death wheel is. I highly recommend nobody ever uses these. I do it because I've been in the trade for that many years. Well, yeah. Nobody should use these. Don't even go looking for them. This is the tank, so we'll put some holes in where we need them and then go from there. Some holes drilled for some pipes, and the front panel with the outlet pipe. So now I think we're just going to start welding it together. I'm going to weld the pipes into these panels first so that I can do a nice weld on the back side of them, make sure they're sealed up well, and then make the rest of the box around it. So that's what we're doing now. on. That's welded down. I'm going to weld this side as well, but first I want to put in this other pipe, so that's going to be standing up there and that's going in that hole. So I've welded not quite 500mm of seam on this, and the torch is overheating quite badly. I can just smell it while I'm welding, so I'm going to have to stop again. What would really be handy is if I had a water-cooled TIG lead. Then I wouldn't have to stop. My welds wouldn't be getting all dull and horrible. They'd be shiny all the time. So I'll get a water cooler eventually. Alright, so I'm going to let this cool down a little and then finish off the welds. In the meantime, I've still got one more piece to cut and fit. Pretty much finished all the welding. Mostly it's just a bolt up job now, so I'm going to mount the pump in there. So I'm going to drill a couple of holes, put some roof cert nuts in from underneath, and then that's pretty much it. Bolt it all together, wire it up, and away we go. Insert through it. From the back. Pump squishes down over it. We just got to put a little M6 bolt and washer through from the top. And that's good to go. So I've got some short bits of hose. I'm not sure, but the camera may have shut down while I was fitting these things up. All it is a couple of screws holding that in. This isn't even screwed in yet, but I've still got one more piece to weld on, which will be that piece on the corner, and once that's welded, then a little bit of cleanup and final assembly, and then we can test it. So this piece sits up here. We got the two fittings will mount in the front of that panel. Pieces that make it all work. These literally cost me $45 each to get them in from America. This piece is still a little warm, so tight fit. Good. What are you doing, Shed Corgi? Come here. Come on. What do you think? Do you think it's going to work? Do you give it the wag of approval? What about this bit down here? Yeah? All good then. Come on. Outside. I'm going to start making some more noise, so you better go outside. Good boy. Everything's got to pass the test. It's not lab tested, but that's done. I only put hose clamps on the high pressure side because all the rest of it's a fairly tight push fit. So I'm going to wire up the plug and the fan, fill it up with some coolant and see what happens. That's all hooked up. I haven't hooked up the power supply because I'm not an electrician and I'm not about to start playing with mains power supply. This is all just 12 volts, so I'm just going to hook it up to the car battery to test it, fill it up with coolant and turn it on. Alrighty. So, I guess we hit the button and see what happens. That is not quite what we were after. So it got to the high pressure point and squirted the fan and went everywhere. Where is that gap? This is a nice colour. Okay, so what's happened there, these hose clamps are 22 to 30 mil, where I needed a smaller one. These ones might be too small though, but the radius of the clamp was not the same as the pipe, so it's left a gap that has let the pressure out basically. So I'll fit these on and then we'll have another go. Let's take a second go at this. Yep. Well, that's working. Alright, well, I'll say it's a success because, well, it pumped water back into the tank, or coolant. I'm not 100% convinced there's enough flow coming through, but I'll have to just test it and see. Do some aluminium welding. But as a system it should be fine. There's possibly leaks, but then again I have spilt this coolant everywhere, which is the reason why Shed Corby's not in here. I wouldn't want him to try and taste this stuff. So I'm going to leave this project at this point until I can get the electrician to come wire it up, but hey, it seems to work. So now we're going to get back onto the Cubman because I've had parcels, a lot of parcels, so might give you a little sneak peek into the boxes, see what's happening next week. Until then, customize everything. Lots of packages have arrived, so can't really wait till next week's video to open these, so I'm going to open a couple now. First up we have a 26mm carby. And a couple of chain tensioners. That's enough for now. See you next week.